Everybody, welcome to the March 2026 Outdoor Ethics and Conservation Roundtable. So happy to have everybody here in person and people watching the recording later. Once again, I think we have a great evening for you. So tonight, we'll start with our scout opening, of course, and after that, we will have a safety moment. And Michelle will talk to us about working on a trail. After that, we've got a video. So over the last month or two, I've had the distinct honor to be able to talk to 4 youth who have earned the DCSA or are well on the path, and we get to hear what they have to say about it. And I think it's going to be enlightening to everybody to hear that. After that, we'll have our announcements. We'll close the meeting up, and then we'll hang around for a while if people want to talk. So we do have. I'll talk ahead of myself. So let's do the opening. Scout salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Scout oath. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. Scout law. Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. And the outdoor code. As an American, I will do my best to be clean in my outdoor manners, to be careful with fire, to be considerate in the outdoors, and to be conservation minded. Michelle, can you talk to us about working on a trail, please?
I can. So it seems since we were going to talk about DCSA that a lot of projects around that deal in conservation and trails and repairing or just getting rid of trails. As I've had scouts do in the past, working on old horse trails, making them go away and returning the environment to its original state. With that, though, there's some safety that we need to talk about. So next slide. Of course, the PPE, this is a picture from Philmont from the ROPS program. Notice that she has some things on that help keep us safe. Always having that sturdy footwear, especially if you're working in an area where you have lots of loose rocks, falling rocks, little rattling snakes that like to go around. Having the proper footwear is imperative for being out there so you don't end up with strained ankles, broken feet, or any other such things. So good sturdy footwear. Clothing should be long pants and long sleeve shirts to protect against thorns, poison ivy, and stinging insects. How often have we had it happen? You go to turn over a log and you stir up a nest of some sort. So having some protective gear on your arms and legs also highly important. You also want to make sure you have a high visibility vest if you're working within 15 feet of an active roadway, a logging road, or any place you might have multi-use vehicles. Head and eye protection. Make sure you have your hard hat. Want to watch out for those falling limbs. That always comes from above. Watching out for rocks that might get kicked up when you're working with pickaxe and shovels is also important. And of course, if you are old enough to be working with the power tools, cutting brush or chainsaws, you have to make sure you have all of the protective gear for that as well. And of course, your hand protection, having leather gloves to handle the power tools, especially if you're going to be using rakes and shovels. You don't want any blisters. That makes a hard day's work even harder. Next. And of course, your site hazards and environmental safety. Remember, we have that stop thing that we're supposed to do to double check our area to make sure that everything is safe and good. Same thing is true if you're working on a trail or helping to run a DCSA. Make sure that you have taken a look at all of the environmental site hazards, both before you go out and then repeatedly throughout the day. Make sure nothing has changed. Inevitably, a wind comes by and a tree branch that wasn't a problem 45 minutes ago is now a huge problem. So make sure you're stopping and checking for those hazards throughout your work period. Also, environmental stress. Watch out for dehydration and sunburn in your crew. Make sure everybody's drinking properly, taking the right rest breaks, and staying out of the sun, or have the proper sunscreen and sun protection. Use extreme caution on loose, slippery moss, clay, rocks, and make sure to yell stop for all work to stop if a new hazard is identified when you're out there. With that, that's our safety moment for today.
Thank you, Michelle. This week's, this month's, I'm sorry, roundtable is all about the youth in the DCSA. So 4 years ago, when the DCSA was announced, we ran a roundtable back then, and it was all about the mechanics and here's what the requirements are and here's what you need to have in council and all that kind of stuff. But we've never, now that it's been out there, it's time for us to take a look, I think, and see what do the youth have to say about it. So we were able to interview 4 youth three of them have earned the DCSA, one is well on the way. And let's hear what they have to say about it here. The Scouting America Distinguished Conservation Service Awards program was announced 4 years ago to encourage conservation learning by the participants and to increase public awareness about natural resource conservation. Understanding and practicing sound stewardship of natural resources and environmental protection strengthens Scouting's emphasis on respecting the outdoors. The goal of the Youth Award of this awards program is to encourage and recognize truly outstanding efforts undertaken by Scouts, Venturers, and Sea Scouts, which have contributed significantly to natural resource conservation and environmental protection. Now that 4 years have passed, we felt this is a good time to see how the program is succeeding. What better way than to talk with some youth participants who have earned or have nearly completed the Distinguished Conservation Service Award for Youth? Here's what they have to tell us.
So, my projects were so the first one I did was I built and installed they're called monofilament disposal units, but they're for fishing line and hooks. You've probably seen them around. They're basically a PVC pipe that has like a curve to the top that you can put fishing line and hooks in. And then I made my own educational sign. They're located it's called Harriman Lake Park. It's in like the foothills area of Denver. And so that was my first project. And then the second project I did is I built 11 birdhouses for Foothills Golf Course. So they're mountain bluebird houses, which is intended. I did some research, and kind of what spurred that project was we've seen a national decline in bird populations due to a lot of habitation loss. And so to provide them places to have nests and to exist is really important. So that was a part of that project. And I both did them in I did the bulk of the work in the fall to early winter of 2024. Um, and they were both really awesome projects.
Yeah, so my first project was linked with my Eagle Scout project. It is a pollinator garden outside of the Williamston Middle School, so my local middle school, right outside the library and the bus stop. So lots of people can walk by, and it's full of 50 species of native plants and flowers. Um, it has literature and signage for the school so that they can build it into their curriculum. And I've talked with the science staff and also the school board about what they wanted with this to make it as perfect as possible. So it's providing both educational for the public, the school, and also the environmental gains. My second project is a control of invasive spread at our local Williamstown Township Park. This project has a boot. I'm making two boot scrapers that go outside both the entrances of the park, as well as going through the park, the new forest that they're making, mapping out all of the invasives that they have for future cleanup of the park to make it look as beautiful as possible and as natural as possible.
So the DCSA has two projects, of course. My first project I did in 2023 in Downers Grove, Illinois, which is a little bit outside of Chicago. So that was at Lyman Woods. It's a private kind of park district owned forest preserve. And there they had a little pond on their property that was adjacent to a nearby university's parking lot and also near a bunch of residences. The problem there was that there was a lot of runoff and pollution coming from both the parking lot and those residences, and that was negatively impacting the pond, which used to be used as a habitat for some of the, and also as a water resource for the deer in the area. So for that project, what we did was, first of all, it was surrounded by invasive buckthorn. So we cleared a radius of 20 feet of the buckthorn all the way around the pond to make sure we, one, had room to work, and two, the pond wasn't getting crowded out by the trees. We then had to focus on the pollutants with the runoff. So what we ended up doing was putting surface sand filters at the main entry points of the water. So we would layer rocks, gravel, sand, so that as the water came through, it would only go into the pond after it had been filtered. So that was the biggest part of the project, but there was also an algae problem. So we installed a pond aerator so that the water would continuously move so that algae would be less of a problem. And as the last part, we planted native plants all the way around the surface of the pond. We planted native plants around the perimeter of the pond and in the pond and all around it, just to make sure that it was really a healthy ecosystem. So the goal for this pond was to get the pollutants down and make it, once again, a viable habitat and resource. And Lyman Woods does a lot of animal restoration kind of programs. So they might use it as an amphibian habitat or a reptile habitat. And a lot of the plants that we put were there specifically so that native insects and birds could have habitat, food, or shelter near the pond. For project number 2, this was at Owassipee Scout Reservation, which is in the Muskegon County, Michigan. So I worked with the Muskegon County forester for this project. Owassipee had a huge problem with spongy moths, otherwise known as gypsy moths. And that is an invasive insect that was affecting their foliage and also affecting the general programming of Owassipee, as they tend to be a nuisance. So this project was originally intended to focus only on the spongy moths, but with the guidance of the forester, we expanded the breadth of the project to handle invasive insects in general. So we expanded to not only the spongy moth, but also the spotted lanternfly and the Asian longhorn beetle. There were a couple big parts of this project. This one was a lot about helping nature help itself. So I taught the bird study merit badge and forest fish and wildlife management merit badges at Owassipee that summer. So as a part of those badges, we would build either brush piles to support the local mammal populations that will attack these insects, or in bird study, we built nesting boxes for the black-capped chickadee, which conveniently eats and destroys the eggs, larvae, and fully grown spongy moths. So that was a lot of helping nature help itself, as I said before. We also put signs up around camp as awareness. So there were signs on the Asian longhorn beetle and spotted lanternfly saying, if you see it in any of their stages, please take a picture, try to capture it, and send it to this hotline or send it to this website. And there were QR codes and phone numbers listed so people could report them, because Michigan is worried about having these invasive insects, which haven't quite made their way there yet, but they're worried about having them all the way up there in Muskegon, and they want to stay ahead of the game, and Scouts can be a good resource for that. And then there were also signs for the spongy moth, encouraging campers to destroy them in all stages of their life, as they are invasive insects. So those were my 2 projects.
So I learned this from my mom, who works with Bill Bowerman, part of this organization, and working with Eagle and Bald Eagle Project. And she came home and said that this an amazing project, and I had already wanted to do a large Eagle Scout project, so I thought this would be extend the benefit of this. It would stand for a long time, education, provide a environmental benefit, and also with both my parents as environmentalists, it sounded something that I really wanted to do.
So when I was doing my Eagle project, it was a pollinator garden. My older brother's friend had previously done the William T. Hornaday Award, which was like the predecessor to the DCSA. And he encouraged me to pursue that award as well, because my Eagle project would have fit within that range. So I ended up getting in contact with my council conservation committee. And by that point, I was a little too far into my Eagle project. But I decided I wanted to do the conservation award anyways. So I did 2 additional projects to earn the award.
I originally learned about it from my mom, who was just looking at conservation awards because she knew I liked the environment, and she just ended up stumbling on that one, did some more research and told me about it, and I agreed to try and do it.
Heard about it through a couple different people. I think the first time I heard about it was at National Jamboree in 2023. And I was just talking to somebody and they mentioned it, and I got a pamphlet. And then my mom heard about it too. And she was like, oh, like you should do this. And so, kind of through the grapevine of just people mentioning it, I heard about it.
What made me want to pursue it was my love for the environment, and I knew that would help me get into my dream school for college for fisheries and wildlife, and it just looked like a lot of fun and a good challenge to do.
I've had a lot of engagement within conservation work for a long time before I decided to do the project, and I saw it and was like, that seems like a really cool thing to do. Like, um, it was definitely a way to support my community, and it just sounded like a lot of fun. Um, and it just was cool, and I liked the merit badges that it encouraged me to do, and a lot of connections that it helped me form in the end were awesome.
So for my pollinator garden at the middle school project, um, I had just graduated out of middle school. I was in the early years of high school, and I look back trying to figure out what an Eagle project would be. And I saw that the middle school used to have a garden, and it decayed relatively quick. It was just a rock circle at that point. So I reached out to the school board and asked if I could change that, if I could help make that beautiful again, add some value to it. And they said that they would like a new one instead. So I ended up building a new 500 square foot garden outside of the library, the science rooms, and the bus stop. And then for my other project, the Control of an Invasive, the Boot Scraper project, I was with scouts going to all the parks, all the trails that we go to, seeing the boot brush stations outside and the signage that goes with it. That inspired me to ask my park, which didn't have any boot scrapers or anything to help teach people about invasive spread, if they wanted this. So I talked with them. They loved the idea, and they had me make up 2 of them to put at either entrance.
Again, tying back into my Eagle project, I selected the first project because it was at the same location as my Eagle project. I had an interest in soil and water conservation at the time, and I reached out to my beneficiary saying, hey, I know you guys have wetlands, you have multiple ponds on the property. Is there any soil and water conservation adjacent project that I can help you guys with? And they were like, we have this pond in our property. It's not in great condition. We don't really know what to do with it. you can have at it if you want. And I thought that'd be a really interesting project. I went and looked at the site and I was like, all right, this looks like something I want to pursue. So I ended up doing that for project number one. For project number two, I was working at a Wasapie that summer anyways, and I had been a camper for some previous years, and those gypsy moths were really quite annoying. So I had a personal vendetta against them, but they were also invasive insects. So I talked to some of the people at Owassapee about it, and then I ended up reaching out to the Muskegon County Conservation Department, where I talked to their forester, and we ended up coming together to devise an idea for a project that would benefit Owassapee and conservation in general.
Um, I originally selected my first project for the habitat by driving over to Isaac Walton. I forgot what I was going there for, but I remember looking off to the side of the road and I saw a giant like milkweed butterfly habitat. And that just gave me the idea to do something similar to that. For the Christmas tree one, I actually saw it in a magazine that my mom showed me, saying that looks pretty cool for Christmas trees tied to cinder blocks, throwing into a pond for fish.
I had a hard time with definitely like time management. I started the project, I started doing the whole process of this award. Um, what I would consider a little like later than I would have hoped. And so I ended up doing a lot of merit badges very back to back, and I had a lot of I had to stay really on top of my communication. I had to be very punctual. I had to be um very efficient about things, and that was definitely a challenge to the whole process of it. Just was like very like mattered when I started things, when I did things, and so I had to be really on top of it.
The biggest challenge with my projects was probably convincing my town of Poolsville to give me the money to actually afford all the projects because I was around 15 or 16 at the time. I didn't have any money myself. And then probably doing all the paperwork and setting things up.
My biggest challenge would be the timing and the weather. Starting both my projects in late summer, early fall, and running into winter, making it so I couldn't plant my plants, my flowers, or hammer in the signs that I needed. Really slowed down my project.
So there were two primary challenges in executing the project. Number one was bureaucracy when it came to Owassapee. The nice thing about the DCSA is that your projects can benefit Scouting America properties. The one thing about that is that Scouting America properties, especially ones like Owassapee, which is a really, really old, established 1911 camp, is that there's a lot of hoops to jump through in order to get approvals to actually make changes to the land, put up signs, and change the merit badge program or get some programming approved so that we can do it during the week with the participants. So first I had to get approval from my nature area director, being like, hey, can I incorporate this as a part of my project? Then from the camp director to make sure it's okay with him in general. Then from the commissioner to make sure it's okay to put the signs up. So it really takes some perseverance and grit in the bureaucracy there. The second thing is research. With conservation projects, a lot of the bulk of the work of the project is figuring out what to do. You have identified a problem. The real challenge comes in knowing what you're going to do to tackle that problem. And you can't just be like, how do I restore a pond? Type it into Google and have it give you a solution. You've got to go through, explore a bunch of different strategies, see how it's been implemented before, and decide what's going to be most economical, effective, and feasible for you to do. So that was another challenge.
My favorite memory from the experience was tying the cinder blocks to the Christmas trees with metal wire with my friends from my hockey team who decided to come down and help me with it. We sat there in the pouring rain for 3 to 4 hours, just talking to each other, making jokes, having fun. And then at the end, we ended up just throwing them in the pond from a boat.
So there's this adult that helps out with my home troop, Mr. Langanke, and he came to all three of my project work dates, and he was an amazing support throughout this. And one thing that he helped me with that was just really cool to feel this like this support from my community that I've poured a lot of effort into, and I'm very involved in my troop. And Mr. Langanke was super encouraging, and he really helped me figure out how to lead more confidently. I've done a lot of leadership, and he definitely was a huge help in figuring out, like, oh, how do I be confident about decisions when I don't necessarily know everything about what I'm doing? Like, I'm not like a big construction person, that kind of thing. So, like, a lot of things were like a learning process, and so to be confident within that learning process was definitely something that was really amazing to have learned from a lot of people who have supported me for a long time.
There were a couple of good memories from the project. The first one that jumps out to me is during the pond project, we had to get in the pond. And one of my volunteers, throughout the entire week that we were doing the project, he kept asking, "Can I please get in the water? Can I please get in the water?" And finally, it was time to tell him, "Yes, you can get in the water today." So we had to go, both of us went into the pond. We ended up having to pull out an entire log. It was pretty much a whole tree from the pond, just to get that out of the way. So that was a fun memory in that sense. But something that really has stuck with me is the amount of people that were interested in conservation, interested in my projects, interested in the award after doing this. I used my network through the Order of the Arrow, through my troop, through my crew to recruit people for these projects. And as I did that, they were like, "I thought you were already Eagle. Why are you doing a project like this?" And then I got to tell them about the DCSA. And from that, a lot of people have decided that they want to start work on it, or they became interested in it, or just generally into conservation programs in Scouting America.
My favorite memory from building my projects was when I was working on my distinguished or for my middle school pollinator garden. This project was right after I came back from a big high adventure trip. We went to Isle Royale, and the small group of scouts that I hiked with came to one of my work days right after we got back from IRL, and being able to talk with all of them about that experience, and then also having fun with them, building and teaching them how to set up the garden was really fun.
I think the most important thing to share about DCSA projects in general, my project too, is that patience is key in doing conservation projects. They're not something that you can just get done. Oh, I want to get this done in the next few months, even the next year. You're going to need quite some time to do two full, worthy, effective conservation projects. Like I said, research is a huge part of the process. So you need to take time to make sure you're carefully considering all your options, but then actually seeing the change and making an impact, or knowing that you made an impact, also takes time. It's not going to be, I put up a couple birdhouses, all the moths have disappeared from the forest. It's not going to be, I put in the sand filters yesterday, I'm going to go check today, and all the pollutants are gone. No, it's we put in the sand filters. I came back 4 months later, and I collected a water sample, had it sent for testing, and I saw the levels slowly go down over time. So patience is incredibly important in all types of conservation projects, and that was something important for both of them.
Um, I think the most important thing would be um how involved it got me in conservation work is I've been like now in college, I'm studying environment sustainability, and I'm in a lot of these classes that are like, oh, like change makes a big difference, getting involved, like engagement is super important to like preserving the environment and helping with all of our conservation efforts. And to be able to be like, yeah, like, oh, I've done my own conservation work, and like I've gotten my hands dirty, I've gotten involved, I've been in the planning process, I've done the communications, I've found the work, I've done the research. Like to have been a part of that whole process has been very beneficial to figuring out what I want to do. But I think it's so important to be engaged. And I think that's something that's just super important when it comes to conservation work as a whole, is getting your hands dirty and getting engaged is super important.
Um, the most important thing I would probably want to share is I know the paperwork seems like a lot, but commit to it don't give up on it.
Yes, absolutely. Um, I I haven't been back to check on my projects just yet, but in a while, but I think like a part of the difference I made was getting younger scouts involved and showing them like, hey, like this is possible, like this is doable. This exists, like this award is a real thing. As I think, yeah.
I do feel like my project has made a difference. There's a lot of people in Poolsville who like going outside, walking around, fishing, and them being able to do that and having something to look at, like the monarch butterfly garden or habitat in the middle of town, makes me think that I really affected someone's day by them walking by and looking at it.
Yes, it was very rewarding because it was a lot of work, a lot of effort. It would have been almost disappointing if absolutely no progress had been made. So it was very reassuring, very rewarding to see those numbers go down. Or in the case of my second project with the invasive insects, very rewarding to see kids be genuinely excited about making a nesting box because it's not just about the bird, but it's also about getting rid of those annoying insects that are all around their camp. Or for those that are slightly older, it's less about the insects and more about just generally being able to help the environment in more than just one way and learning about the interconnectedness of everything in conservation.
I would say that my projects have made a difference. Yeah, for my first project, the pollinator garden, seeing how the empty field of grass by the school transformed from very little value to an extreme amount of value, both in the way it looks for the school, for the providing material for the science classes, and then also for the environment itself. And for my other project, the value that that brings is allowing the park to stay as healthy as possible, to stay as natural as possible.
My best advice would be ready to commit a lot of time into this if you have after school activities like sports or other hobbies, because it is going to be a lot of work.
Start as early as you can. Um, it's it's a lot of work and it's worth it, but the more time you give yourself, the easier it is. Because I did the bulk of the project during my junior and senior year of high school, which was a very busy time for me. And so to have done all of that during that time it would have been easier if I could have spread it out a little bit more. Um, but I don't. I think it's still doable, even if you are doing it your junior, senior year of high school. Like, you shouldn't let that stop you, but starting early is helpful.
I would say the best piece of advice that I could give would be to start it at a time that you know you could finish it in a good chunk of time. I know because I came across winter being a big obstacle. Um, and also, there's also the threat of timing out of scouts. So do it with enough time to make a good quality project that everybody is proud of.
I think I already mentioned patience. Patience is very important in earning the DCSA, but another thing is passion. So I guess there's patience and passion. You can't do the DCSA because you're like, I want to check off a box, or I think this will look good on an application. You have to do the DCSA if you're genuinely, thoroughly interested in conservation, or at least in the subfields that you decide. For my soil and water conservation project, it's not that I became interested in soil and water conservation after finding out about the project or after doing the project, but it's that I was interested in it and then I pursued a project related to that. And that is a lot of the intention of the DCSA, is to have scouts who are interested in something go and get experience and exposure to that field. So you really have to want to do these projects. It is a lot about intrinsic motivation because sure, the medal, the knot, they're cool. But what's even cooler and really rewarding to see is the impact that you've made and to have these changes. That one of the things it says in the workbook, you can come back in 20 years, point at that and say, I did that. And that's like the beauty of a DCSA project. And that's why you really have to be passionate about it in order to pursue.
It is a really cool process to be a part of. And I think one of the best things that's happened out of it is I've gotten a lot of connections through doing this project of people I've talked to, people I've met, and through all these connections, I've ended up in a really cool space, and I have a lot of connections that have benefited me scholarship wise, applying to college, and all of those kind of things that it definitely made a big difference for.
Well, everybody, I think those are some awesome youth we've got here. And I would also like to say, if you have any questions for them, we have three of them able to join us tonight. So if you have any other questions, I'm sure they'd be delighted to answer any questions if you type them into the chat.
Tell me about the workbook. Did you like it, or do you think we could improve the workbook?
I think that the workbook is very repetitive for what we did for the Eagle one, especially because I had a linked project with my Eagle and Distinguished Conservation Service Award. So like copying and pasting things over was a little repetitive, and they were like slightly different too. So it was enough for that you still had to think, but it was very tedious to do. And I don't know how to really change that, but it was very redundant.
So add to that, I don't know if this was maybe where I got my documents from or I pulled them off the website, but a lot of my documents had formatting issues. Like I don't know if anybody else experienced these, but I had a couple spots where like I entered it into the document and then it would format it strangely, which I don't know if that was just my end or if that was in general, but I ran into that quite a bit. And I also found it a little repetitive because I did do one of my projects in tandem with my Eagle project.
I
I
also,
have.
sorry. Yeah, I
Go
also
ahead.
ran into formatting issues. So that wasn't just you. And like, especially when it comes to the safety details, I think it asked me about the same safety questions like 3 times in the workbook. Like pretty much the exact same question, just reworded in a couple places. So I don't know if that was like an issue when like processing it and putting it onto the website, but the safety section especially was super repetitive. And like for context, like the Summit workbook is 16 pages and effectively covers pretty much all the same areas as the DCSA workbook. So I think there's definitely room for it to be more concise.
I have gone through to help someone local, and looking at, there are like 3 or 4 different documents. There's kind of a summary, there's the workbook you have to do, and there's another one. And all 3 of those are very nice in and of themselves, but I found that trying to match sections between those caused a great deal of confusion. Did you guys also have that happen?
Working on my projects, I ended up, due to formatting issues and just some other factors to filling it in, I ended up doing like a separate Word document along with the bulk of my paperwork, where in my document it was like, oh, see page this of the Word document. And you had to go back and forth between the two, either because I ran out of word space, it formatted strange, or like I just had a lot of reasons where basically I ended up with I think my document for one project was almost 70 pages in length to match the difference between the two. Just because I had to add extra bits and pieces everywhere, but it just was a little difficult.
Sounds like these scouts need to be on a committee to help with some changing of the formatting of the book.
So some questions were typed in here. So Gary asked, how did you convince people to maintain your projects once they're done?
I can speak on this.
Yeah.
For the pond project, well, first of all, I was very upfront with the beneficiaries, as it says in the workbook. Like, maintenance is entirely the beneficiary's responsibility. So I made sure that was clear when reaching out to them. It did also help that my Eagle project was with the pond project one, so there was already like an established relationship there. So I'd say, I gotta be a little careful if I'm wording, but I'd say like take advantage of like nepotism, of like personal connections, because then you have those like relationships, and it's a little easier to convince people to do things. But other than that, it's also in their own self-interest to maintain, like especially if they're a conservation organization, it's in their own self-interest to maintain it, because we're taking away the initial barrier, which is all the cost and effort into doing it, and we're just making it easier for them. So
Yeah, so to add with what you did for to maintain my projects, I made my project heavily linked so that the scouts could get environmental service hours, because those are harder to get in your path to get Eagle. So for my middle school pollinator garden, I ensured that would have scout service to maintain it and keep it looking great. And then also I worked with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, so I got I got a contractor, I forget, but we have to maintain it for 10 years. So it ensures that it has to, we get those service hours for our group, and that it does last for a full 10 years and hopefully longer than that as well.
Also had benefits within my beneficiary of working with my beneficiary up front. I was working with her and I was like, yeah, one of the things with this project is it has to be maintained. And so I got my beneficiary, which I worked with Foothills Parks and Recreation, and she fully was like, yeah, we're going to keep and maintain it. And so I was lucky in that factor.
Next question. Did any of you take your interest in your conservation issue into your high school classes or into your school club, or involve them in your project?
Absolutely. I worked, a part of this was I worked with Colorado Trout Unlimited for a period of time, and they were part of what funded my project. But I've, due to my project, gone back and worked with them time and time again, which I got connected with them through my high school. And I definitely brought a lot of what I learned into my high school classes, especially my environmental science class that I took during high school.
yeah, I had a similar experience. Once I was done with the first project, I talked to my school's eco club about it, and they were like, "Okay, please let us know about your second project." So I reached out to our National Honor Society and then again the eco club, and they actually sent a couple volunteers for the second one too. Or, sorry, I got that mixed up. I asked them after I presented to them after my Eagle project, and they asked me for the first DCSA one. There we go. Sorry, they did not come all the way up to Owasso. That'd be like a 4.5 hour drive.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Just to add on here, this we will have this on the Outdoor Ethics and Conservation YouTube channel, the video. So if you'd like to see that, it'll be available there after I make it available after this roundtable is over. So
I've got a quick question to the three scouts. Would it have helped to have people on the Eagle Review Board know about the Conservation Award, rather or along with the avenues that you guys came across?
I think for sure it would have been helpful if like the DEC, at least at the start of the process, knew about like the DCSA and like the Council Advancement Chair and things. I think there was just less information known about that. But if DECs can like identify that like, oh, this kid's doing a conservation project, let me talk to him about the DCSA, like right off the bat, like I think that would be like instrumental.
Yeah, I think you were the one who started an Eagle project, and then, yeah. What I worry about, or what has happened in our council, is kids start their Eagle project that would have qualified for this, and therefore, once they've started it, they can't do the the review and the basically the science fair project part of it beforehand. Therefore, taking that project out of consideration. That's my big concern.
Well, thank you. And I think Dave O'Leary put a comment in here and he said it very well. Thanks for sharing about your projects and taking time to answer our questions. And thanks for completing these great conservation projects. And for everybody else, I'd like to let you know that next month's roundtable, we will be talking to Conservation Committee and DCSA advisors who help these young people earn the DCSA. So we'll hear from them and we'll kind of look at the adult side of it and what goes into it from that side next month. So I hope you all come back for that.
Hey, Paul, quick question. I know you're recording and I know you have other things on the agenda, but when we go off the recording, if the scouts can stay on for like an extra minute or two, I'd sure like to know more about the formatting issues in the workbook and get some more feedback offline, kind of, if you're willing to do that, scouts, it'd be great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Also, I'd like to thank Shrumman for being the first scout in Pathway to Adventure Council to especially willingly and aggressively do 3 conservation projects in that. And if it would have still been the Hornaday Award, he could have slipped a 4th one in and gotten a Hornaday Silver, but that wasn't possible. So, and the one thing we're exploring with Shrumman is to with the Order of the Arrow to possibly add a 3rd person to the OA visitation team to the units where right now you have an election person to supervise that. The second one you have in camp promotion, and the 3rd one should be to promote conservation. So I'm working with Ted Wieland and a few people like that, but that's something that we've looked at here in the Pathway to Adventure Council. So more about how we're doing that next month. So this is just a tickler. So
thank you. So now it is time for us to go through our announcements. And we start off with an exciting one here. I hope everybody here will join in. There are 2 people on this call have been selected to receive the Silver Antelope Award at the National Annual Meeting in May. So Paula Booth and Marshall Berger, congratulations to both of you. And I can't say how much I believe it's well deserved for both of you. So everybody, please join me in congratulating them. And Chris, can you tell us about the breaking news on the next February's conference?
Breaking news. So I'm excited to announce next year's Outdoor Ethics and Conservation Conference. It's in February 2027. We're going to be at Seabase in Islamorada, Florida. As we've done in the past, there's going to be kind of 2 components. There's a weekend component, which is the main conference. We'll have plenty of breakout sessions reaching folks in both outdoor ethics and conservation. And then there's also pre-conference programming as well. In the past, we've done tread lightly workshops, leave no trace training, conservation advisor training. We're still working on putting the specific details together. If you've got some suggestions, feel free to reach out. There'll probably be an interest survey coming out at some point in the next couple of months to help us kind of target a little bit of that programming into what folks are interested in. But there's lots to do, and the extra cost for an extra 3 days at Seabase is relatively minimal compared to the cost of the conference. So hopefully you'll be able to take a week off and enjoy Florida in the winter. Seabase does offer round-trip shuttle service from several local airports for an extra $110, so you don't have to worry about renting a car for just to sit in a parking lot for 5 days. There's bunk rooms available at Seabase. I've been assured that there are enough bunks for everybody to have a bottom bunk for their own comfort. And we've got a couple of program features that we're really excited about. The first evening, afternoon, really, as folks are arriving, there'll be an opportunity for a sunset cruise to kind of help kick things off in style. since we're going to be at Seabase, we're going to tour the Britton Environmental Center, which does the coral reef restoration work down there. We'll have a keynote address highlighting the different activities that they've done. And that'll probably also be tagged with an optional evening night out in Key West for those who are interested. For someone like me who's from a bit farther north, that's an opportunity that I don't often get to take advantage of. So hopefully you'll all be able to join us. We'll have a lot more information coming out soon. So stay tuned. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, and another reminder about the Conservation at the Summit program. Please get the word out to the people in your districts, out to the units. This is a great program. A week of hands-on conservation with some time for some fun at the summit, and all for $350. I mean, it's a deal. So get the word out, please. And also, please spread the word about Leave No Trace Level 2 instructor courses. There are 4 planned for this year right now, and they're awesome courses. I think if you talk to anybody who's taken one, they'll tell you it's right up there as one of the best courses they've ever taken. So encourage everybody to go, and encourage your friends to go. If cost is a consideration for you in attending one of these, or if for someone else who wants to attend, please check out the Dan Howell Scholarship. It's there to provide some assistance to people who couldn't otherwise attend a level 2 course. Once again, a reminder, the Scouting for Clean Waterways is still ongoing, and check it out. And it's a great way to get kids connected with conservation and get scouting a lot of national recognition for what we're doing there. As always, please, if you've got some photos you can send me, please do. I like to put pictures into these charts, and so they're not just boring old charts, because if you see real scouting activities, those are makes the charts so much more interesting. And appreciate your feedback as always. Please just send an email to roundtable@scouting-oec.org, and that'll go to the Roundtable team, and we all get that. And we appreciate your telling us what you like, telling us what you'd like to see, telling us what didn't work. All of that really helps us. So please, your feedback is greatly appreciated. This recording will be posted to the website, at the address, the Roundtable address there. It should be there within a week. So fingers crossed, and I get all that done, but hopefully we'll have that up there in a week for you. And now to close out, my Leopold thought for the evening. In June, it's completely predictable that the robin will give voice when the light intensity reaches 0.01 candle power, and that the bedlam of other singers will follow it in predictable sequence. In autumn, on the other hand, the robin is silent, and it's quite unpredictable whether the Covey chorus will occur at all. So, taking this thought, from Sand County Almanac and extending it, this is a great time of year as we're coming into spring now, and there are very noticeable changes outside. Take your youth outside, find things now, and find, like, the robin. What's it doing now? Why is it doing that? In a few months, go out again. See, is the robin still doing that or not? Why is it not? In a few months, go out. This is a great way to get them out, get people connected with nature, and to notice what's going on throughout the year. And maybe not robins now, maybe it's spring peepers, whatever it is. But go out, get your youth out there, pay attention now, take them out again in a few months, ask them the same question, see what's different. And with that, we are done with this month's roundtable. Thank you all so much for attending. And next month, as I mentioned before, we will be talking to the scouters and the councils that these youth are from, and learning how did they get going, what are some of the lessons they learned, what advice do they have for scouters who want to get this program up and active in their councils. With that, thank you very much, and I hope to see you all next month.